What's up, guys? This is the morning deck. I think I'm going to call this the Morning Joe. It's a new idea that I thought that would be...
Morning Jay, maybe?
The Morning Jae?
You're Jason. Why would it be the Morning Joe?
Why would it be the Morning Joe? That's a good point. You say Morning Joe is not going to work. Morning Jason? But the Morning Jae.
That's what I said, Morning Jay.
You did say that, okay. Hey guys, so we decided on Morning Jae. So welcome to the Morning Jae. My name is Jason, and what's your? Can you want to introduce to the beautiful people? No, a little bit of background. We have ourselves Sena. She has 2 bachelor's degrees. Can you want to explain what your expertise is? She's my lovely assistant for this, and I think it would be a good addition to the show.
I have a bachelor's in environmental policy with the minor international development.
Right.
And my second bachelor's is in marine sciences.
Could you explain what that is, the policy making? What is it? Because I've never heard of that. I've never heard of environmental policy making.
Well, it's just pretty much just the EPA, Clean Water Act. Every time you build something or you do something, there's an environmental consequence.
Yeah.
So environmental policy is really just looking at regulations to make us live in a world as environmentally friendly as possible. I'm for my master's and I'm specializing in ecotoxicology, aquatic ecotoxicology.
Background is in I'm not a scientist, I'm a stunt guy. I work in the entertainment business, but I'm very enthusiastic about the sciences. That kind of what drew me to Sena. And yeah, the things that I like are like physics and technology and just engineering in general. So I think we're going to cover a few topics in the news today and see what's up. Sena's learning the guitar right now. I think she's doing pretty good. You want to serenade our fans for a second?
No.
Just a little chord, go for it.
They don't need to.
Well, you're playing the whole time.
Damage their ears this early in the morning.
Okay. I have a list of topics here that I think Sena could help explain. One of the first things that I came across was the fact that the Earth's magnetic North Pole is on the move. It's moving from a part of Canada. I think it's... do you remember which part of Canada?
Nunavut, I think.
Is it in Nunavut? Yeah. So traditionally, the North Pole has been around the northern territories of Canada in Nunavut. And it's now moving at a speed of about 34 miles a year towards Siberia. And one of the reasons that scientists think that this is happening is because of blobs. So I think Sena has some history with what a blob is. So apparently there's 2 blobs that are acting against each other that is shifting this magnetic pole. But what is a blob?
From my understanding, it's a patch of water. So there's one in the northern Pacific, and I don't remember where the other one is. But it's a patch of oddly warm water that's hanging out in that region, and it's actually shifting different things. So it's also affecting gray whales feeding and reproduction.
Right. So I just did a little bit of research, and the second type of blob that is affecting the pole's movement is also a magnetic blob, but that's not quite accurate because the blob is molten iron, and there's 2 opposing blobs as well. They're massive. I mean, huge. And these 2 blobs are just like similar to the ocean blobs in the ocean. The blob of molten iron is acting as 2 like magnets, I guess, and it's kind of shifting just like in the ocean, how these blobs are shifting the ocean patterns. These molten iron is shifting how magnetism and the poles work on the planet Earth. So it's shifting it towards Siberia, and it's kind of interesting because any thoughts on how I mean, it's just an opinion, but do you think that would change what exactly? Because most scientists that think about this don't know how that will affect weather. They don't know how it will affect weather or just different things in nature. Like, have you heard anything about no?
But I feel like it's not the first time it's happened, because if you look at the rocks on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge.
Yeah.
So in the middle of the Atlantic, there's a mountain range that goes from north to south.
Yeah.
and it's spreading apart, so it's making more ocean ground,
Yeah.
ocean floor. There are metallic ores in the sediment, and you can see them changing orientation as the planet magnetic fields change. You can
Right.
see them changing how they're aligned as they're spreading apart.
That's
So it's
interesting.
not the
Yeah.
first time this happened.
Yeah.
So nature knows what it's doing. This is the first time it's happened while we were aware of it.
Right.
So humans might freak out.
Right.
Our machines and electronics might get confused.
Right.
But I think animals and trees and the planet knows what it's doing.
They're used to it.
They're used
this
to it,
happens.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
So I don't think it's going to change how animals and how nature does its thing. I don't know if wind is really affected by magnetic poles.
well, we do know that it happens like every like this process takes thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
This process of the switch and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't change that much, other than our technology, of course. Yeah. But I guess we'll see. So did you get that? Is it gone? Okay. So next up on the list. So I don't know if you've been following Elon Musk's escapades. I'm gonna make a segment. I think if this becomes a popular thing, I'll make a segment called Elon Musk's escapades because every week the guy's in the news. I think personally he's just trying to get free publicity.
He's had a lot of that.
Yeah. So I think he understands the power of negative news and shaping it to make sure you're always in the conversation. But he's in the news again today. It's working. We're talking about it. But I mean, I'm a fan of the guy. If you didn't know.
At least.
So apparently, even his girlfriend's mother, Grimes. So he's dating. Sena, I don't know if you knew, but Elon Musk is dating someone called Grimes.
I don't even know who that is. No.
She's a singer. I've never heard any of her songs, which I should, but I've never. I heard she was okay until recently. Like her recent album is garbage, but she's a pretty good singer from what I understand, like pop singer. Grimes is not a real name, so
I didn't imagine it was.
okay, just making sure.
Who would
That's
name
what the
a
young
child
people do
Grimes?
these days. Yeah, the young people they have a what's it called? Monikers or something. Is it a moniker? Anyway. So Grimes' mother apparently does not like his tweeting, and so recently, if you didn't know, he recently said, "Take the red pill." It's a Matrix reference to
Stay in the Matrix.
well, actually, it's the opposite. To get out of the Matrix, there's the blue pill and the red pill. The red pill was the escape pill
into
into the real world.
the real world.
So it's kind of a sly reference to say that we're trapped in a system and we need to get out of it. It's kind of it's in reference to his whole freedom talk recently, talking about this whole COVID thing, and give you some back history on that. So he is very, to say the least, very short of patience right now. He's trying to get back to work, try to get his cars pumping. His motivation behind that is a little bit up in the air. Some people think it's for money. I think he just likes to work. And I think being pent up, work at home, but there's just so much you could do. You're seeing other people catching up, I guess. Especially, he feels like he's in a race against time. He needs to be very, very profitable in electric vehicles and this sphere before these bigger companies like GM and Ford get there and kind of take his lead, shorten the lead that he got over the years with Tesla. So I think he's a little angsty and he wants to get back to work. And he's been stuck at home for 6 weeks now. China's been shut down.
And he wants his way.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I'm a big proponent of him, and I have to say he's being a bit of a brat right now.
I bet.
Yeah. So, but with the angsty lately, and he just wants people to get back to work, and he thinks it's all a sham. He's on that cusp of being a conspiracy theorist that thinks that this whole thing is just planned and just some sort of. He's almost there, but not quite. Until he gets there, he still has my support. I don't agree with everything he has to say, but I can respect that he's trying to do a lot of hard work, and probably more than likely, my opinion, he's doing all of this to get back to work. And if you didn't know, at the end of this quarter, if he's profitable, he will be on the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is the 500 most profitable companies in the U.S. They're pretty much a driving factor of like where the country's going, where the economics, worldwide economics of the United States. They're a good representation of that, and to get on the S&P 500 is a big deal because like you have banks and all sorts of they invest in these mutual funds or whatever that just dump a bunch of money into the indexes. So S&P 500 is an index like the Dow Jones and Nasdaq. Yeah, so the Dow Jones and Nasdaq, these are stocks in the stock market. So anyway, so to get on the S&P 500 is a big deal because it means you open up a whole new avenue to financing.
So you don't get the financing if you're not in the S&P 500?
Not in the same way 500 like you're it's like being like you're a little kid. Oh, you're S&P 500, you're a huge corporation now. It's a pretty big deal. It means like you're very, very important. So it's not quite like the Nasdaq that just has technology because there's 1,000,001 technology firms and companies. But the S&P 500, 500 companies, they make the most money in the U.S. They're going places. They're influencing the world. This is a pretty big deal. So I think all of this is just, if he missed this quarter and not profitable, then he doesn't. Do you know how shitty you would feel? Like you did all this work because in order to get on the S&P 500, you have to be profitable for maybe like 3 or 4 quarters. Yeah. So I get it. This tweet. Yeah. So his mother, and I quote, his Grimes' mother had something to say about his take the red pill. Yeah. Why does it always rain when we go outside? Like Mother Nature hates us. Like whenever we're outside, it always rains. Like, yeah. With a little bit of adjustment. So back on point here. So Grimes' mother said, if your partner went through a
wife's
girlfriend's mother, yes, not wife.
Well, you said his anyway.
Yeah, you're right. So Grimes' his girlfriend mother said, if your partner went through a challenging pregnancy and childbirth in the last 2 weeks and you were over 16 years old, would you be blaring MRA bullshit on Twitter right now? I'm not sure what she means. What she means by MRA? Oh, matrix reference maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not sure what MRA means, but she's saying that he's talking a bunch of bullshit, and his girlfriend just had a baby for him, and apparently it wasn't a very
difficult
easy
pregnancy and a difficult labor.
Yeah.
And he's not 16, so grow up and pay attention to the baby and the mom.
She makes a good point.
She does make a good point.
You just had it goes back to what I'm thinking. Don't you? I feel like he knows something that we don't know. It does. People call him an alien. I'm on the cusp of saying, yeah, something's maybe. What's going on? Because like, he doesn't care about like earthly things. It seems like not just money, or. It's just like get to work. Okay, it's like maybe is he bipolar? I heard things that he's bipolar or something. Or maybe there's something, maybe a little autistic, maybe a little.
He's probably he's on the spectrum. I would not be surprised if he was on the spectrum.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, but he's incredibly focused. I hope he gets it together. I'm a shareholder. I need him to appease a broad audience at least. Get to work, but keep your people together at least. Just a little. Just try to, I don't need things falling apart right now. I'm a big advocate for renewable energy, and he has some pretty good ideas. I might explore it in a different video. But yeah, I hope he gets it together. And our last topic for the day is...
I need to put this thing back up now.
Jesus, now we got to put the umbrella back up. Because the sun's back out. Thanks.
It didn't rain after all.
Yeah. So, the last topic for today is going to be China, Huawei, and Trump's new kind of sanction. Which, in my opinion, a sanction is an act of war. What you're literally saying...
Really?
It should be, because what a sanction is like you're saying. Because the U.S. is in a unique situation, right? There's a
bully. What do you mean? Carry on.
It's a pretty big bully, in my opinion, as well. But that's a political topic. But what a sanction really is like it's saying that it's the U.S. is unique is that because they control the banking, where money flows, how money flows. So when they put a sanction on a country, it says, hey, our banks and finances can't go to certain companies that are related to this thing. It's a pretty interesting concept to control behavior and like things that they consider terrorism, which is really just against the empire.
Anything they want.
Yeah, whatever, terrorism doesn't even mean anything these days. But The new sanctions against China says that there's no company that can provide any type of chip manufacturing for them, for the company Huawei, which is a big Chinese company.
They're just gonna bite them back because then China's just gonna learn how to make it themselves. If you could already design a chip,
Yeah,
you already have like freaking a third of the world population
right.
with a bunch of really smart people
Right.
with a bunch of materials.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the machines, and then you
Just do the work
just do
yourself.
the work yourself 100% of the work.
I think the reason behind this is that it's going to dent their profits so much that it'll give other American companies a chance to catch up on certain things and win contracts. For instance, like the 5G network. They want to be the ones that build out the 5G network
They,
around.
China?
They being the United States. They want to. The United States wants to be the
they
5G
do.
provider of the world.
Of course they do.
China is way ahead.
Of course they are.
So when you do something like this, you're weakening their position and their ability to compete.
But if
So-
China were to do the same thing, you'd be like, that's unfair practices. You can't do that. You gotta let the free market do the free market stuff.
That sounds about right. And
You're manipulating the market.
yeah, it's weird because like
Bully crybaby.
seriously, it's like I think but by the way, we're Americans, I guess. But
USA.
we're also citizens of the world, and we like fair trade and fair practices. I
And just don't be a hypocrite.
yeah, we hate hypocrites.
Yeah,
I think that's the
what
thing.
it is.
I think what the rationale behind this is that we're competing. China has a long history of bad practices. They steal
true.
intellectual
That
property.
is true.
Their government finance their technology
Well,
sector.
they're communist,
So they have
so
it's a
everything's-
communist country.
Everything is government.
So from the American side, it's like, hey, this isn't fair practice to begin with. I think that's a
Just
rationale.
But it's a different system. Why does my system have to be exactly like your system?
Well, from an
No,
just from a
it's-
businessman perspective, I
But
guess it's just
But that's not true for anything. You're like, well, if that was true, then you can't have the big corporations competing against the mom and pop store because they don't have the same things. It's not fair. They're not doing things the same way.
yes, but the monopolies tend to help the government.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
only unfair when it's against you, and that's
It's a very complex,
hypocritical.
very hypocritical. But in any case, yeah, the U.S. sees it as fair trade. So, I mean, the U.S. sees it as unfair trade, and so now Trump is attacking with these sanctions. China has about 12 months before there's no company around the world that can help them with chip manufacturing. And get this, do you know the reason why? Because I was wondering, what about foreign parties like in Europe? Huawei has chip manufacturers in Europe. How can the U.S. affect a European manufacturer? It turns out that Europeans are using products made by U.S. tech firms. So because of that, you can put a sanction on them by saying, hey, you can't use our intellectual property to help China.
One day, it's going to bite them in their butt. They're going to do the same thing, and then they're like, well, you can't do that, though.
Well, this is a trade war. We're literally in the middle of a trade war that you got to be careful with this type of stuff because it turns into a new Cold War. We're already arguably in a Cold War. Like the Cold War in the past was between the U.S. and Russia over kind of communism versus capitalism. And now you have communism and capitalism going at it again, but on a different front. Now it's not tanks and missiles. It's more business and money. So we'll see. Any predictions? What do you think is going to happen?
What I think is going to happen? Everyone's going to cave with the U.S. like normal.
They're just going to cave?
What they do.
Even China?
No, China's going to fight it.
Well, this is yeah.
So-
So they're going to fight it. Do you think China will fight back? Any ideas how?
They make like 80% of the world's stuff. If they just stop making stuff. You think people are going to stop going to Walmart? People love cheap things. Our entire economy is based on cheap stuff. If cheap stuff stops coming,
Yeah.
right?
I think from my perspective, because I go, I deal deeper into the economy and stocks than you do. I think it'll just drive bigger companies to lose money. I think maybe there is a positive in this. Maybe some manufacturing would return to other parts of the world. Maybe you'll shift to. The argument is that if it's not China, it'll shift to like Malaysia or Singapore, like whatever we need from China. So these other countries will benefit.
The other countries will benefit, but the U.S. still isn't going to benefit as much as they did because China has really cheap labor.
And then the argument is maybe that's a good thing.
That is a
maybe,
good thing.
Maybe these big companies make too much money to begin with, and they don't share the profits.
I agree with that too. But I don't know if the U.S. economy is going to agree with that.
Good point. So maybe the economy could,
And it's
could
already
see some
shaky as is. The last thing you need is a
Yeah, we're actually going into deflation.
yeah.
We're going to a deflationary period right now, which is pretty much people are saving more than they're spending.
Which
crazy.
should be a good thing.
Should be a good thing. Historically, it's been a good thing, but whatever. So now, in the next few months, they're going to try to convince consumers to spend more in order to avoid deflation.
So of course, start a trade war.
Start a trade war. Let's get some money flowing. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Those are some of the big topics of today. Thank you, Sena, for joining me. Hopefully we get to do this a few more times. Till next time, guys. Peace.